Welcome to today's tutorial on JavaScript. Today I will be talking about JavaScript validations. Getting user inter values. We have a form on our web page, but we haven't talked about how we will extract the data that a user might enter in our form. To make any form work, we generally get the data, that is text in our case, inside of the form element, input, text area, or etc. into JavaScript variable and then send it to the server. Optionally, many developers like to do some validation, that is checks, on the data before sending it to the server. An example of validation could be checking the format of the email intact. Remember the document.query selector we used in the previous section. We use it to select HTML elements. Since form inputs are nothing but HTML elements, and the data that a user might enter in those inputs is stored inside of the HTML element, we could use the same document.query selector and select our HTML elements. Then we need to know a crucial piece of information. An HTML input value, or the data inside of it, can be accessed via the value key. Remember object, the HTML input element object will have a value key that holds the current text inside of the element. Finally, we will console.log the values from the input and text area and see what we are getting in the email text and message text variables. Function is click listener event. Event is prevent default. Let email input is equal to document.query selector, that's email. Let message input is document.query selector, that's message. Let email text is equal to email input value. Let email text is equal to image input value. Console log is email. Email text is email text, then message is message text. Perfect. Did you see how the message just looks flawlessly beautiful? We say, instead of just printing the email text and message text, we have formatted it a bit using console.log. That's the email, that image text, which will print it nicely with the label email printed as is. It is possible that you might see some errors at this point. Just go back and make sure you type it exactly as it is. Play around and try different input. Do you notice any issues? It is important to make mistakes. You should get used to seeing error messages and knowing what they mean. It might feel a bit cryptic in the beginning, but practice is the key. So whether you get it right straight away or after a bit of trying, there is always something. Now in JavaScript validations. If you play around a bit in the previous section, you will have noticed something weird. Although the input fields say email and message, you can pretty much enter anything into it and it will still accept and print it. In fact, it even allows you to enter empty element, email address and message. That's not good. We will need to set some restriction or for what gets entered, especially the email field. For our purposes, checking to see if the text entered in the email field has an character will do. In the real world, you will want to do more stringent check on the data. For validating email, we need to write a validation function. Validation, as mentioned in the previous section, are checked. There could be checks to make sure the data is in the format we expect, or to filter any unwanted word from the text, or anything else. They serve as an easy way to let the users know about any errors in their data submission. In our email address validation example, our check for @character might cause the instance where our users forget to type @ or mistype their email addresses. Function email validates email. If email includes at return value, else return false. So in this JavaScript code, try to use it and see what this function check if the supplied text parameter email contains the at character. It's using something called a conditional, that is the if and the else that you see. You can rate it as if yes, it return true, otherwise it return false. Let's test if it in our click listener function by logging it to the console. Console log email validates abc at xyz.co.cm. Okay, it's work. It isn't perfect, but it does demonstrate how expressive JavaScript is. Now we can bring anything together inside our link click listener function and display the appropriate message. If email validate email text is equal to true, console log is the email address must contain the at character. Return false, console log thank for your. Try this code out. Function email try this JavaScript code and see how it will work out. Function is email validate email, that is if email includes the at character, that is at sign, return true, else return false. Function create listener event. Event is prevent default. Let email input is document query selector email, and let email input document equal dot query selector message. Let email text equal to email input value. Let email text is equal to image input value. If image value is email text is not equal to true, console log the email address must contain at return false, console log thanks for your message. Let submit button is equal to document query selector as submit button. Submit button is at event listener. Click and click. Here we are first checking the email. If it's failed, we log the error message and return false, which is one way of preventing further execution of a function, meaning that our last console.log will not be executed if the if block are not executed, which means return false wasn't encountered and the function is still running. We assume all went well and display a success message. Pretty well, huh? Did you get it right? Great job. If not, just look carefully. You'll find the bug. Remember, debugging is a critical developer skill. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.